my fellow comic book collectors. It's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and I'm joined with my good friend Mark Olroyd
I
and from Suddenly Comics. And we are the Price Variants, where we look at the hottest Silver Age comics of the week. And this is really my way of looking at the market in general. Like, how is the market performing this year? Are we going to keep on getting steals of the week, or actually last 2 weeks we actually had some new records, which is always exciting, you
yeah.
know, especially since the market is, everyone's panicking, like the sky has fallen, and it keeps on falling even though it's already fallen. I don't know. So this is going to be like, looking at that market and seeing how it's performing. So let's get into it. What's the first book, Mark?
Our first book is not that. It is that, I think.
Yeah, so this one I only put this on the market. Like, this is not okay. So anyone watching this video, this is not a hot book. This is not like something where you got to run out and get this book. I just thought it was so quirky. I was like, Superman bowling. Oh, that's so cool. I thought it was an interesting book.
No, he's not
So it's,
bowling. He's not bowling. He's doing the shot put.
I know, shot put, shot put. It looks like okay. So when I first saw it, I thought he was bowling. Then I realized, oh, he's shot putting, and then all these strong men are on the side, and he's like, oh, he's wimpy compared to them, kind of thing. I think that's what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So yeah, so I thought, oh, it looked like he was bowling. I was thinking, wow, but it's like some weird Mr. Universe kind of thing, I think,
Yeah.
But it just looked really cool. I was like, oh, this is so quirky, and it's very Silver Age, So yeah, that's the reason it's on the
Well, this is
list.
really, really, really dodgy area as to whether this is silver or gold, isn't it? 56.
Well, it's 56. So I'm very like precise in terms of what I call the Silver Age and Golden Age. So anything after March of 1955 is Silver Age, in my opinion.
Okay. Right.
Now there will be the other purists out there. I'm a purist in my way, but there are purists who will say, well, 55 to 1960 is actually Atomic Age, and they
Yeah.
create this little micro age in between. But I try to stick with the even the Golden Age gets divided up into these weird micro ages. So I try to keep it like platinum, gold, silver, bronze, blah blah blah. I don't try to, except for plastic. Plastic is my own invention, but so, this is, in my opinion, Silver Age, just because it has the code. That's
Okay.
that's my
Right. Yeah.
that's my
So
way of doing it.
it is early, early, early silver age.
Yeah, and you can tell that by the size of the code. The code stamp is huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah,
All right.
actually the code is almost as big as the Earth. Look at that. Like, compare the two.
It is. Yeah.
Um, that's how important the code was. Okay. So this is the 6.0 of Action Comics 220, a non-key book in a mid-grade.
Yeah.
So
Sold for a mid price. So it's £210, $210.
$10. Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine there's going to be many of these having been sold or even graded. Let's have a look.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a weird one.
So it's the only sale of a
So
six.
it's a record. Yay, a record.
Yeah, I'm not sure it counts. There are only three of them. Let's have a look at the total census. Right. So, this is not a heavily graded book. There are 36 total graded.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean,
Is there anything that has like more sales to it so we can actually see if there's a trend line?
no. So the 6.0 has got three. I suppose the 6.5 has got five sales. When it's only sold once.
It hasn't sold recently.
So I'm
Okay.
afraid there's not really much to assess this by, Alan.
Oh well. So this does happen, and this happens a lot when I do my Golden Age videos, where I'm like, okay, it's a record because there's no other sales. It's like,
Well,
but
I mean, there's a
so,
sale here of a 4.5 going for 180. So it's I don't know. It's too sporadic to really judge any.
Yeah,
You can't
I
make
think
any assumption, right? There's nothing you can tell from this. It is what it is, you know.
yeah, in a way, it's kind of cool because what happens is when if you're at an auction and you see this book and for some reason you want it because you think he's bowling but he's actually shot putting, um, you might not know what is a good price for it. So you'll just bid based on, how much you
Yeah, but
desire that book.
I usually give the Overstreet guide price.
Yeah, but nobody goes by that. Like in
Well,
all,
I've been watching, and I don't think the Overstreet price is as bad as you say it is. So
okay, so what was the Overstreet price for this book? Because the 60 which should be on
one
the
nine
Overstreet.
195.
Okay, actually, yeah, you're right. It kind of in line with that, a little
Yeah,
bit more.
yeah.
So this is a record based on the Overstreet price then.
Yeah. So if I'm looking at heritage, I won't bid more than the Overstreet price guide unless, I think it's wildly incorrect. And I'll also
Yeah.
check the data that we look at here. So I'll go collect and look at previous sales and so on and so forth, um, before I make a bid. But I'm always hesitant to bid more than the Overstreet price guide because most of the ones I'm watching sell for less than the Overstreet price guide.
Yeah, you know what I've seen, and this is like with these kind of weird books where there's really not much data about it.
Yeah.
I've seen it where, it'll have like an opening bid. Usually there's some established price coming into the auction even. But it'll have an opening bid on these weird books of like something like $1.
Yeah.
No, nobody's even put anything on it.
Right.
But then you'll get like a whole bunch, like then you'll be like almost counting down. And then
Yeah.
a whole bunch, somebody will put in a bid, and then somebody else, and then all of a sudden there's like all this activity where it goes up
Yeah,
to like
I've
two
seen
hundred
that
and ten
happen.
dollars.
So, and it's fair enough because you're sitting there watching it and you think, well, I don't really got my eye on this, but for $10 or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
it's quite a nice comic in a 6 hour, and the
Yeah,
Overstreet's worth 195. I'll probably put $50 on it, and if I get it, I've got a winner.
yeah, exactly. So I've seen that a few times, well, many times actually. Um, so yeah, I just thought it was an interesting one. Is he shot putting? Is he bowling? Who knows?
We do
Uh,
know, Alan, he's shot putting.
no, no, no. We don't. We'll leave it as uncertain. We'll let the viewers decide.
Oh
Um,
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. He could be playing cricket as well. Yeah.
oh yes, it
Now
is
you mentioned
cricket. There's a twist. It was actually cricket all along. Okay, so what's the next book on the
it.
list?
Moving on. What's the next one? This is a bit more of a mainstream.
This is a bit mainstream, but I like this book, so I just put it on the list.
I actually saw this, and did think about bidding on this, because this is a low price.
I think this is a really low price because I remember when I bought my copy is a lower grade, and I paid around 300 or two something, 2 to 300, and
Yeah.
mine's a lower grade. So I was like, oh, this seems like a pretty low price.
Yeah. I may have gone for that if I'd seen. I did see it on the auction. I did look at it, and I decided not to watch it live.
Mhm.
If I had watched it live, I'd have been tempted at that price.
Yeah, I'm one of the few people out there that really likes Aquaman. I actually think he's cool. So
Well, I'll tell you what I like, Alan. I love the Nick Cardy artwork in the first 40 issues.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The Nick Cardy artwork is some of the best. I really do enjoy it actually. Um, yeah, those are pretty amazing covers.
That's the only reason I like Aquaman is because of the Nick Cardy artwork on the Aquaman run.
And I mean, I watched Aquaman as a kid. I really, I grew up watching Aquaman, Spider-Man and Friends, Aquaman, Justice League, uh, the superhero, like what was it? Superheroes and like what's the one with the annoying super twins?
Super, super,
Super Friends
super friends.
was Super Friends, yeah. So those were kind of the ones I grew up with when I was really young. So yeah, so I liked Aquaman.
Yeah, these guys who look as if they'd been out for a curry the night before.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, it'd be from the other end though. Um,
Fire trolls.
yeah,
How do you know what a fire troll that isn't the other end?
yeah. You never know. So yeah, so this is Aquaman #1, 5.5 grade, which is it's a good grade. For
It is
this book,
it is a good
it's
grade.
a, it's a solid grade.
Yeah.
Actually presents really, really well for 396.
Yeah.
Let's see if that's a good. Let's see if
I
that's a good
reckon we've
price.
got a bargain here, Alan. Yeah.
I would think around 400
Right. So the
personally.
last
For
sale
five
was
hundred.
500. So this is
Wow.
$140. This is down. This is back selling at sort of 2014 level.
Wow.
That is a real, somebody's caught a real bargain there, Alan, because this has
So,
been around the $500 mark forever. To get
so
that
you're saying people
380,
didn't like the Aquaman movie?
well, clearly not.
So wow, that's horrible.
So that is a real, somebody's caught a real bargain there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the eBay listings are even way higher than that. So yeah, that's just a
Well, yeah,
steal.
there's a 5.5 here on eBay for 699,
Yeah.
so which is
So I mean,
$300 more.
yeah. So definitely somebody got a steal. Maybe it was the same guy, and he's like, oh, now I can flip it for
I was
six
going to
hundred
sell it.
ninety nine.
It could be the same one. Yeah, you're right. Could have shoved it straight
um,
on eBay. Yeah.
yeah, I've seen that so many times actually. Um, but yeah, okay. So yeah, just what's the census count on this? It's a it's a DC book. It is number one, so
It's still low. It's 1,000.
1,000. Yeah, that's higher than most. A lot of DC books are in like the hundreds.
Yeah, the number one.
But
Of
but this is a number one. Yeah,
Aquaman is an A-list character. He's probably at the bottom of the A-list, but he is.
yeah, yeah. He's sort of circling the drain. Um, but oh well. So yeah, so Aquaman number one. Then really just a steal of the week, I guess. That was a pretty big drop for that one.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay.
All right. Third comic, Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos, number number 12, no, number 13, and it's a
Now this
CBCS slab.
Yeah, so this has got like this. I like this book for a couple reasons. It is like I think it's like a weird like crossover between Sergeant Fury and Captain America. I think it's their first time working together,
Oh, it's a
something
nice,
like that.
that's definitely Kirby, isn't it? So
Yeah, it has a very Kirby-esque look to it.
cover Jack Kirby, yeah.
Yeah, it just the pose and just the line work. Yeah.
It's always the
Uh,
people in the back, the faces of the people in the background, and they all look Kirby like.
yeah. No, I go by the Captain America's pose. It's like it's like Kirby-esque. Um, so yeah, so
Yeah, nice cover.
yeah. So what it does say that what the key is. I think I'm right about that, but it's
Captain
like
American Bucky cover and appearance. Captain American Bucky meets Sergeant Fury and the Commandos. Second Captain America crossover outside of Avengers.
yeah. But I think it's significant because of him meeting Sergeant Fury.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Okay.
um
Nice,
so
nice.
kind of a cool book, high
I've never
grade.
seen that comic before. I like the cover.
Hmm. So this one, it's interesting for two reasons. One, it's a CBCS. I always like seeing how CBCSs perform compared to like CGC.
Yeah.
Usually I always use the 20% lower rule. Like, I think that's generally what they go for. So let's see how close it is to that.
Have a look. So this is of course
The CBC, CGC, yeah.
one
And
sold
what
on
did
so what grade? Yeah, this is the right grade, a
the
9.
9.0? Yeah.
One sold on CGC for $959 in December.
Okay.
So yeah, so you're
This
about
is within that.
your 20%. A bit more
Yeah.
actually. It's nearly 30%, isn't it?
So the CBCS one got a major hit. So let's compare it to CBCS and see how well.
Yes. Well,
9.0. That's a 6.0. Wrong grade.
right. Sorry.
Still like a nice line. Crash. Um,
Yeah, over the last 3 years, this has not been a good investment.
so what was the high sale on that?
Uh, 949 in February 21.
Okay, that's peak COVID. Okay.
Yeah, but there haven't been any other sales as the only two CBC.
So this is a good one in a way because we can say, okay, well, this is what it sold for peak COVID, and this is what it's going for now. That's
It's also
probably
interesting to compare the CGC and the CBS, isn't it?
yeah.
So yeah, that's the
And I've
C.
seen that consistently where it's like, you get a real savings on the CBCS ones. Like 20, 30, well, in this case, 30%.
So in a comic like this, where you've saved $200 or $300, wouldn't it be just worth buying the CBCS one, taking it out of the slab and sending it into CGC?
Well, that's what I always think too. And usually CBCS is fairly good in terms of the grades. Like, the only issue is like in some of the lower grades, like they're a little bit more gentle about cover detachment and certain things, like certain weird things, CGC is more harsh on. So you got to be a little bit careful which grade you buy and then do that process with. But
Okay,
I
but
think
as far as I'm aware, CBCS don't have the added advantage of having employees nicking all your comics and swapping them with grades.
yeah, well, that's always an advantage. But
They also don't
right,
have the problem with their slab whereby you can open it up, replace the comic, put it all back together again, and nobody notices.
well, that's only by the reholdering thing. That's a
Now
whole
it's not
different.
it's not just by the reholdering thing. Go and watch Immaculate Comics, the
And he was showing how to get around their.
showing you how to open it up, take the comic out, replace it, put it all back together again. If he can do it and put it on YouTube, so can other people.
So yeah, I might do that with all my like. I just have to change the labels. Like all of my labels are wrong. They should be all 10-0 blue labels, but I don't know why. Um, yeah, I just got to fix that.
Yeah,
So
so
and they're all
it's well
all
worth
major.
paying an extra 20% to get it CGC'd so that you can ensure that your slab can be opened up, comic replaced, and to have dishonest employees stealing them and changing the labels.
Yeah, I mean, there's right now. I mean, the whole industry isn't doing that well in terms of the all the grading companies. I'm not just saying CGC. There's just so many scandals right now, and it's something has to be done.
Yeah,
This is
they've got to fix it because it's undermining the whole
yeah,
concept.
trust.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why would I pay to get something done if I don't know that there's no way, somebody can just open it up, take it out and put a low grade in there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's horrible that happened. And then the other scandal of that, potentially one, but maybe many others that had been sort of, reholdering books of different grades. I mean, I think CGC is trying to resolve it. Obviously, they're being fairly transparent, fairly, as much as they can be.
Well,
But
then that transparent, the owner of CGC went on and did an interview with one of the comic YouTubers and said absolutely there's no internal problems with any of the staff. And then a week later, they start a lawsuit against their own staff. So that is not being open and transparent. That is lying.
yeah, yeah. But they might like a lot of those things when they're doing those kind of things, they can't say anything.
Well,
So even if
he shouldn't say anything then, rather than lying.
yeah, I agree with that. You're right about that. But yeah. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt if as long as they give me free slabbing. So yeah.
That'll be another scandal.
What?
CGC bribes major YouTuber with free slabbing so that he supports their service. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I'm a major YouTuber, so I don't think that scandal will ever be a issue. So yeah.
Right. I should
So
get back to the comics, Alan.
yes, we should before we get into trouble.
Right. There we go. I know you've got this one. I'm sure you've shown me this.
I do not have this
Oh,
one.
you don't have it. I thought you'd shown.
So So the reason I put this on the list, actually, I was, oh wow, I was shocked when it was on here. This one was actually on the hot list on Lords of the Long Box.
Ah, okay.
And I was like, oh, wow, I wonder how much effect they had on the market, because it was like, they always do like some list where it's always like these obscure comics, and you're like, oh, does anyone even have these comics? It's like they're all so obscure. And this was one of them. And they were like, oh, this book sells for big, big money. And I imagine a bunch of people went out and tried to find it. Now this heritage auctions happens with the book. I was curious, did it impact the price? So
Okay, let's have a look. So this is a 9.6, which is a flipping high grade. That must be a file copy. Uh,
yeah, and
700.
this is Walt Disney Christmas Disneyland.
Okay.
So just so you know.
Well, I'm afraid, Alan, that is the only sale. So let's
So
have a
so
look at,
what we have to look at other books on the census. So this is a record.
yeah.
Um I forgot what the grade was that they looked at. You might have to just try to find the most recent sale.
Well, there was a 9 foot. Oh no, that sold ages ago. Well, yes. So this 9.8 here sold for
Yeah,
4,000. That would have been the one they're talking about.
I think that was the one they were talking about because they were like, "Oh wow, why would it why would it go for that much money?" Um,
Well,
and the
there's only
thing
one
is,
of them, so it is the only 9.8. So it is the highest graded in existence. That always triggers it, doesn't it? I know you've commented on this when we've seen some drops on comics, and you've said, well, that might be a newly graded one, and previously it was the top.
yeah. So I think usually 3x. So this is actually down, is what
Yeah,
I would say.
yeah,
This 9.6.
yeah.
Um, it should have gone for around 1,000 based on the 9.8 sale.
Yeah, well, look at this. There was a 9.4 that sold through. Oh, that was COVID, I suppose, but it was
Doesn't matter. Like this is one of those books that it's not a spec book. It's
no,
not
not a spec book. How many of these are there on the census, Alan? 24.
24. They're really rare. And they're rare to find in these high grades. I think a lot of them are actually file copies. I imagine. I don't know how anyone would have had this in high grade unless they're,
97, so
you
it's
know.
2 years older than me. Goodness, it's in good shape for that. Right. Okay.
So,
Interesting one.
so this was actually low.
Lords of the Long Box appear to have had a negative effect on this.
Yeah, I think probably what happens is people get all excited about it. A whole bunch of copies come to market. Like when I watched their video and then I went to eBay and I think there was no copies on at that time. Maybe one or two copies. Now, if you look just on this thing
Yeah.
itself, this app itself, you'll notice on the side there's like a bunch of copies now.
Yeah, there is a bunch of copies. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the interesting effects that happens when there is the kind of
Yeah,
the influence of,
Alan, you can go and buy this for $50 off this guy.
oh wow, okay, so maybe I'll go do that and I'll get it slabbed as a 9.8 and make like $3,000.
Yeah, there's another one here for $50. So it's selling raw for 50.
Yeah, so I
So,
mean
you know,
that's the
if those are reasonable copies, you may get, even if you get a mid-grade, you quids in.
yeah, so that's my point. Like a lot of these ones where it's like some weird obscure thing like this, it can have that effect where people will be like, well, I have that at home, I know I have a copy of that at home, and then they bring it in because they're thinking, well, they can cash in.
So
And
next
then
time I
all
see this, there will be 242 graded copies.
yeah, yeah, I've seen the census do that before, right? Like where all of a sudden you have to be the one that gets it early, right? Before the market gets flooded.
All right. So let's have a look at another comic, Alan.
Mhm.
Amazing Adventures #1. That's a nice comic.
Yes, and this is the first appearance of a Dr. Droom,
Of course it is. Why did I not know that?
and he becomes Dr. Druid later.
Dr. Druid. Yes.
And he's kind of, in a way, like his story, his origin is very similar to that of Doctor Strange. So it's kind of like almost like a prototype for Doctor Strange.
And these guys look very Ditko-like. Is this Ditko?
I think so.
Yeah, it is. Steve Ditko art. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very Steve Ditko-y.
These angular,
Um,
these angular features on the face are a giveaway.
mhm. And he did a lot of
You
those
know what?
monster books.
I've got a copy of this somewhere.
I actually have a fairly high grade copy of this.
I've got a low grade copy of this. It's because I remember this cover. Look at this print. It's impossible, and then it goes. Quiet Tour might be anyway. Maybe it's a reprint I've got. It may have been reprint
So,
in.
so Amazing Adventures becomes Amazing Fantasy later on.
That's right.
So this is kind of a key book because it is the book that in the future leads to Amazing Spider-Man.
The pesky arachnid. Yeah.
Hmm. So yeah, so just a cool book. 8.0 copy, very nice.
You won't find an 8.0 anywhere. I mean, that's just really high grade. Right.
Yeah,
Let's have a look
and
at this. I think that's going to be a.
I think it's going to be down personally because it's
Oh,
one
it
of
is.
those.
Oh, it's significantly
Yeah, yeah.
that one. Yeah, this
It
was.
used to. It was a book that got really hot during COVID, actually.
Yeah, but that's not that. If I go back to November 2001, this sold for more 22 years
Is
ago.
that? Wow, that's crazy. So yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I can't explain
That's
that
not
one.
COVID. That's not a COVID effect. That's
Okay, and what's that high peak? What
that
era is that?
was. I've no idea. That peak, the high peak was $2,100. So it's about double, or in April 2014. Now I'm not aware we had a Amazing Adventures movie or uh,
Well, I think so. I think that's like isn't that like I'm not sure which Far From Home or one of those ones or like it's like when the franchise got rebooted again.
okay. Well,
Or I don't know, I'm not sure. It's like during that I think Avengers and all those ones were just coming out at that time. So I don't know. Maybe there was some excitement. I'm not sure why. That seems like an awful, awful.
anyway, this
Uh,
person bought this comic for less than it cost in 2001. In
that's crazy. But yeah, I figured this one was down because I remember when I bought my copy, I got it at a good price, but it was everyone wanted crazy prices for it. So yeah, I figured 1,200 seemed low.
only 318 on the census.
Yeah. So it's I don't know why it's just not doing that well.
No, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko. Can't do much better than that. Right.
So an interesting one. Okay, so I think that's five actually.
That is five.
So interesting start. The next five will be even more interesting. And I would recommend anyone that's watching this go over to Mark's channel and check out part two, where we look at the next books. And they're all bigger books. It gets bigger and bigger as we go through the list. So thanks again, Mark, for joining me.
Hopefully, there's a sporting cover so you and I can decide what sport it is they're playing.
Well, I only include one of those per list. So yeah, so it is cricket, probably based on the fact that nobody knows what cricket is.
How
So yeah.
dare you? Right. Okay.
Okay. Bye for now.